Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. And today I want to talk a little bit about CCU chains, why you might want to use them, and why you might not want to use them. Now, I recently made a video about my fleet, and I make a lot of videos about my fleet, and one of the most common comments that I get on these videos is why I don't use CCU chains more often. So I did want to go in a little bit more detail about that in today's video. So I'm going to kind of split this video up into two parts. I'm going to talk a little bit about why you might want to use a CCU chain and why you might not want to use a CCU chain, and kind of what my strategy is around it on my account and the reasons why I'm approaching my account with that strategy. So to kick things off, I kind of have an example here. Now, many people who talk about CCU chains, they kind of have a spreadsheet and they go over the numbers. And I'm not going to go into too much details about the numbers. I just kind of want to talk about this conceptually for a little bit. So basically, I know there are a lot of new players that come into the game and they might not know what the store game is, but the store game is essentially where you learn and understand the policies that CIG has in its monetization strategy and what you can do to either save money or really achieve what you want to achieve out of your account. Basically, because this game is player funded, CIG gives players, backers, a little bit more autonomy over what they can do with their account than some other games, right? So basically, a lot of people, when they see a ship like the Shiv or the C1 that sell for $125, $150, they might assume that you have to pay that full price for that ship, but you don't. You can get this ship on discount. You can CCU chain to that ship. There are ways of getting this ship cheaper. So that is kind of the main benefit of a CCU and a CCU chain. So what a CCU is it stands for cross chassis upgrade. So let's say you start off with a ship like the Pulse, for instance. This ship is about $30, right? And the C1 is $125. If you want to get the C1, you don't have to pay full price for it. You can upgrade the Pulse to the C1 and just pay the difference. So you're basically subtracting the price of the Pulse from the C1. You pay CIG that and you get the C1. Now, the actual item that you get is called a CCU. This is the item on your account, and when you apply it to your Pulse, then it becomes the C1, right? So this cross chassis upgrade, being a separate item, has benefits in its own that I really won't go into too much details now because there's a lot of stuff that goes into that. But basically, the idea here is that you don't have to spend all your money on this ship at one time. You can start off with a ship like the Pulse or a hover bike like the Pulse, and then you can upgrade to the actual ship that you want and spend less money doing that. Now, a CCU chain is when you apply discounts that CIG offers periodically throughout the year to pay less for the actual ship that you want. So as an example, let's say you bought the Pulse on concept for $25 with LTI, right? So this ship is $25. Then let's say CIG does a war bond discount for IAE the previous year where the C1 was the best in show ship. Pick up that war bond for $100. That war bond is $100 from $125. And so now you have a Pulse that's 25. CIG is honoring the value of the Pulse at $30, right? So if the C1 is on war bond discount for $100, what you're actually paying is $70. You're paying that $70 difference, right? And you now have a C1 that you only paid $95 for, but it's worth $125. Now, this i.e. CIG has a discount for the Shiv from $150 to $135. Now you pick up that war bond discount to go from your C1 Spirit, which is worth $125, to the Shiv, which is 135 war bond. So you pay that $10 difference, and now you have a Shiv that you only paid $105 for, but it's worth $150. So that's how you chain together the savings that CIG offers to pay less for the ship that you actually want. Now, saving money is not the only reason why someone would CCU chain a ship, right? The second primary reason why someone would CCU chain is because they want to carry the benefits of the original ship through to the final ship. So like we said earlier, you bought the Pulse on War Bond, and so it came with LTI. So the benefit of the original ship carries over to the final ship. So now you have a Shiv that has lifetime insurance. LTI stands for lifetime insurance. So you're carrying the benefit from the original ship to the final ship. Because let's say, you don't want to pay $135 for the Shiv, right? The Shiv on War Bond is $135, but this CCU chain gets you a Shiv with lifetime insurance for $105, right? So that way you have the same benefit of a War Bond Shiv, but without paying the price for a War Bond Shiv, if that makes any sense. The second reason is to carry over the benefit of any ship in that chain. So for instance, we have the Spirit C1 here. We picked that up on War Bond upgrade from the previous IE where it was best in show. So it came with a best in show skin when we upgraded it. So now that best in show skin is still a part of this chain. And even though we have a Shiv, if we wanted to buy a C1 Spirit in game, we would still have that best in show skin for the Spirit C1. So we have a Shiv that we paid $105 for and a best in show skin for the C1 Spirit if we wanted to buy that in game. So the benefits from the original ship carry over to the final ship, and the benefits from any ship in that chain also carry over to the finished ship. And the last reason is hanger allocation. Now, this only really makes sense for a lot of older backers who are really into this stuff. We really don't know how the hanger allocation is going to work in the finished version of the game. So that is something people kind of do from a speculative standpoint. But knowing CIG, they release ships with Southland hanger and VFG industrial hangers more often than they release ships with Airview and Revel and York hangers. So there are only a few ships in the game that have Revel and York hanger. So what a lot of people like to do is they like to get a ship that has the Revel and York or Airview hanger, and then they like to upgrade that ship. That way the ship that they actually want comes with the hanger that they also want to have. Again, a lot of older backers, they want to make sure that they have one of each kind of hanger. Those are the main reasons, the four main reasons: to save money, to carry over the benefits of the original ship, to carry over the benefits of any ship in that CCU chain, and to save the hanger allocation that they want to have on that ship. So now I want to talk about why you might not want to use the CCU chain. So there's this process on Star Citizen Store where you can remove an item from the main part of your account and put it on a list called the buyback. This process is called reclaiming that item or melting an item, right? So when you move the item onto your buyback list, you get store credit. Now, things get a little bit more complicated when you're melting a CCU chain, because when you melt a CCU chain, you don't get the value of the finished ship back. You get the amount of money that you paid in. Reclaiming an item is not entirely a refund, but it is the amount of money that you paid into that item. So in this example, we got a $150 Shiv for $105. So if we melted this chain, we would get back $105. That's just kind of something that's important to note if you ever wanted to get the Shiv back as a ship. Now, one of the other reasons why you might not want to use a chain is because when you melt a chain, you don't get back the finished ship on your buyback list. So on this buyback list, what you get is the pulse because it was the original ship that was a part of that item chain. So you'll get the ability to buy the pulse back, but you won't get the ability to buy the shiv back. If you wanted to get the shiv back, you would either have to rebuild this chain or pay full price for the shiv. The third downside about CCU chaining is that if the shiv is not available at that time, you won't be able to lock in that discount of the shiv. You would have to wait for CIG to offer the shiv at a discount again. And if the price of the shiv ever goes back up again, you wouldn't be able to lock in the price of that ship. Now, a good example of this is something like a concept ship. For instance, the Shiv is a ship that is fully released, so it's not really a big deal. These ships don't really go up in price that much. They do go up in price. CIG has raised the price of ships like the Cutlass. They've raised prices on other release ships. More recently, the Hull A, the Raft, and so on. So prices of ships can go up, right? And if you CCU chain a ship, you're not locking in that price because a CCU on your buyback list doesn't hold its price. That item will go up in value the same amount that the ship goes up in value. So the primary downsides of CCU chaining a ship is that if you reclaim that CCU, you're not getting the finished ship on your buyback. You're getting the original ship, which in this case is the Pulse. You also can't lock in the price of the finished ship if the finished ship goes up in price. Same thing with the CCU. You can't lock in the price of the CCU, right? You're also not getting the value of the ship. You're getting the amount of money that you paid in, and you're not locking in the availability of the ship because many ships are not available year-round. So, for instance, if you melt this chain and you decide you want to buy it back during the off season, which is non-Invictus or non-IE, let's say summertime, for instance, and the shiv might not be available, then you won't be able to get it back, right? Because with your buyback, you have, I believe, 4 opportunities if you're not concierge and 8 opportunities if you are concierge to buy back a reclaimed pledge with store credit. And you can buy back anything on your buyback list with real money anytime you want, right? So the availability doesn't get locked down. So one of the reasons why I have CC chains for some ships on my account and not on others is for the reasons that we went over. Some of the ships on my account, I did pick up the original ship because I wanted to have a specific hanger. So one of the reasons why we talked about why you might want to CC chain a ship is because you want a specific hanger, be it VFG, Airview, Revel and York, or Southland. So I wanted to make sure I had at least one Revel and York hanger, and so that's why some ships are the way they are. Now, it's also why you know, one of my ships, like the Polaris, has been upgraded from a referral bonus. Now referral bonuses don't come with hangers, but when I upgraded that ship, it did, so I wanted that hanger attached to that ship. Also LTI. In the past, LTI was a lot more rare. I believe the cheapest ship that had LTI in the past was the Herald. So if you wanted LTI with a ship, you had to upgrade it from something else. but referral bonuses always had LTI. So I believe a lot more older backers have upgraded referral bonus ships because referral bonus were kind of the only cheap ships that had LTI back then. Now all new ships have LTI, so you can use a token, and it's a lot more convenient for newer players than it is some of those older backers. And some people have said, I could contact CIG support to kind of fix this, but I'm not too worried about it. I don't have any plans of getting rid of those ships. Now, basically, the next reason is flexibility, right? When you CCU chain a ship, for the most part, you can get locked into that ship. A good example of that is kind of the Banu Merchantman. Now, the Banu Merchantman was a ship that was a lot cheaper than it was, even though it's still in concept right now, where players CCU chained to its previous value. So right now, the Banu Merchantman is worth $650 and costs $650. But all the players were able to build out Banu Merchantman chains for as low as $150 or $100. Now, the problem with that is that the Banu Merchantman, I have no idea when it's going to come out. But if they melt that, then they'll lose all that value. So they're kind of stuck having $150 on their account that they can't melt and free up to buy other ships, but they also can't enjoy the Banu Merchantman. They basically just have to wait. They have an item on their account that they can't enjoy, but they also can't melt to play with other ships. They're kind of locked in. Yes, it's awesome to have a $100 Banu Merchantman, and when the Banu Merchantman comes out, then you saved a bunch of money, because more likely the Banu Merchantman will go up to like $1,000, for instance, right? So you have to weigh what you personally want. So again, with an example like the Banu Merchantman, if you buy the Banu Merchantman on concept sale, for instance, for I think it was $350. If you bought that Banu Merchantman full price for $350, you will have that item, just like the Pulse, on your buyback locked in at that price, right? So when you melt that ship, you get a full Banu Merchantman in your buyback for $350. So if the Banu Merchantman comes out in the next 2 years, for instance, you can buy back that Banu Merchantman for only $350. Just kind of holding it in your buyback, you essentially have a $350 Banu Merchantman that you can melt. And that gives you the flexibility and the savings. So weighing those options gives you the ability to save money and be flexible, versus CCU Chain, which is just maximizing your ability to save money. And at the end of the day, it's a tool. It's a tool that you can use to make your account what you want it to be, right? If you want to save money, if you want to, chain benefits from other ship packages, right? You upgrade your game package, you want to transfer lifetime insurance, you want to transfer certain hangars to final ships, it's a great tool to be able to do that with, right? But if you want flexibility, you want mobility, you want to be able to deploy store credit to try out new ships before you decide to, okay, maybe this is what you do. Maybe you have just a bunch of store credit on your account and you use that store credit to try out different ships. But if CIG rebalances a ship the next patch, you might not like it anymore. So by, actually buying that ship with store credit and having it on your account long term, it gives you the ability to kind of enjoy that ship through its many phases of development. And then maybe you could say, hey, this ship might not be the meta, but this ship suits me and my gameplay style, so I'm going to decide to melt this ship and then chain it and have that chain on my account long term. And then the remaining money I could use to continue to deploy to trying out new ships. So again, I just kind of want to make clear that CCU Chain is a tool. It is a very powerful tool. It can help you save money, but you know, do whatever on your account suits what your end goal is, right? If you want to try out a lot of different ships, maybe you want to prioritize store credit. So let me know what you guys think about all this in the comments down below. And I want to know the strategies that you're deploying on your accounts. If you're, somebody who likes to test different ships, if you're somebody who likes to maximize their account with savings, if you're somebody who has just like a very expansive buyback list. I want to know what you guys are doing with your accounts. This stuff is really fascinating to me, right? Because again, this is the store game. I know it's kind of memed at this point in the community that there are many players that play the store game more than they play the actual game. But again, that's all just a part of this community's dynamic. And I think it's really fascinating that, again, because this is a community-driven project, because it's crowdfunding, we have these tools at our disposal. And I think it's a really good thing, right? CIG gets a lot of flack for their monetization system, but I honestly think that they give the players a good amount of tools to, feel satisfied with their purchase, with their investment into the game, quote unquote, if you want to call it that. I know a lot of people consider investing into the game's development, and I think that's a good thing. At the end of the day, other games have far more toxic monetization strategies, in my opinion, than CIG. Gotcha mechanics, premium tokens, that type of thing. I think that stuff is gross. I really respect CIG for putting out a product, pricing that product based on what they think they can get for it, and players just give them the money for that product, and if they're not happy with it, they can reclaim that item and get store credit. I think that that's fair. I respect that, even though some people will look at the price of a ship and say this is way too expensive. Well, that's all a part of a free market, right? You price something for what you believe that you can get for that item. You price something based on the work that you put into that item. Because again, at the end of the day, Star Citizen ship isn't a microtransaction, right? In other games, you might have a skin that takes a developer a weekend to make, right? But Star Citizen spaceships take teams of people over a year sometimes to make, and that costs money. If a developer is making $100,000 a year and it takes 12 people to make a ship 1 year, that's $1.2 million to make a ship. That's a huge expense, and CIG also has to make enough money on that ship to fund the rest of the game's development and pay all the other employees that are doing things that have nothing to do with ships. So if CIG comes up with a ship and it's $200, well, that kind of makes sense because the ship took over a year to make it, took over a dozen people, and that ship also has to fund the rest of the game. So once you put that in perspective, it's kind of like, yeah, obviously they can't sell this spaceship for $50. That wouldn't be fair to CIG. They wouldn't be able to make enough money doing that to fund the game. And the game is being crowdfunded. And so people will say, maybe CIG should go to a subscription model. But again, you look at other games that have subscription models, like World of Warcraft, for instance. They have, cosmetics. They have a premium currency. Right? They just released a brand new premium currency. It's not gold. It's not wild tokens. It's like a housing token where you need a special premium currency for their housing system, and you're still paying a sub fee. Now, that's going to be it for me in this video, you guys. I want to thank you for hanging out with me again, supporting the videos and this channel. It really means a lot to me. Also, the Discord slowly growing. We just kind of talk and hang out in there. We talk about ships. I'm excited to hear what you guys say about this video. So don't be shy. Head over to the Discord, link in the video description below, and hang out with us there. So, like I always say, at the end of these videos, you guys like the video if you liked it. Subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Salute.